Sports and TV show streams going live on YouTube, streaming live on YouTube. I think I'm going to do 3 episodes of Rescue 911. Okay, I need to put my iPad in the case. Gotta do camera.
To the Texas Rangers, the best there are. I'll drink to that.
Today on Rescue 911, a frightened 4-year-old.
He didn't know where he was.
And an operator fighting to keep the runaway talking.
I was concerned because of him being alone and then maybe someone picking him up.
While rescuers comb the city.
Michael.
Then,
Sort of believe anyone's come out of that car alive.
drinking and driving don't mix.
You're gonna be okay.
I can't promise you anything at this point.
On Rescue 911,
Anyone's come out of that car alive.
drinking and driving don't mix.
You're gonna be okay.
I can't promise you anything at this point.
On Rescue 911.
During his 20 years with the Sheriff's Department in Santa Barbara, California, dispatcher Roger Glenn has handled many different types of calls, but few more unusual than one he received on the afternoon of December 4th, 1990.
Yes, this is the supervisor at the telephone company in Palm Springs.
Hi.
I have a 4-year-old on a coin phone.
You have a what?
He walked there and he wants his mommy and daddy now.
Okay. You're in Palm Springs?
My initial reaction to that was, so? I mean, she's 3 counties and 300 miles away.
But he's at 805-344.
When she got to the prefix 344, then I realized why she was calling me, because that's the prefix for the Los Alamos area, which is in our county.
When we continue,
My initial concern was to find out where he was so we could send someone to help him.
Is there someone there with you?
if you can't pick your
Yep.
that means
I think
Address on the phone.
Can you read the address? You can't read.
My initial concern was to find out where he was so we could send someone to help him.
Is he near a building or a restaurant?
Is there a restaurant or a building there? A trailer?
Trailer park.
Where is your mommy? She's in Los Angeles.
I was concerned because of him being alone and maybe wandering out away from the telephone booth and then maybe someone picking him up.
Sandy? He didn't know where he was. He was just there on a phone. Well, I was fairly confident that if he was at a payphone, he was on Bell Street to Main Street. At that point, we asked for a deputy to go.
Okay, how old are you? 4?
The only thing that he told me was the place you get air. So from that, I drew the conclusion he was at the Chevron station.
I think he's at the Chevron station.
The nearest sheriff's deputy was Jim Bull.
The distance concerned me because I knew that drive time would be at least 10 to 15 minutes. I was also concerned about him wandering out into traffic, perhaps getting scared and starting to run.
Also request you might check with CHP to near a unit in the area that could stand by with your line run.
A local highway patrol officer was also sent to search for the boy.
Michael, what are you wearing? What color shirt? Blue, black shoes, and what else?
When we asked Michael what color shirt he was wearing, I think he named off every color there was.
Okay.
We were so involved with him being lost and out there alone that when he started this, it was just kind of, funny.
Michael, how tall are you about? What? How tall are you? Do you know how tall you are? Yes. How tall are you? Better, you know what he said? I think he said 60 inches. That's kind of tall for 4 years old. 60 inches tall. 50? 60.
It was just keep Michael on the phone, keep him entertained, and as soon as we got an officer there, we could find him.
Around the same time, Dan Reasoner was working on his front porch when he realized he hadn't heard from his 4-year-old son for some time.
Hi, you see where Michael went?
Oh, I thought he was outside.
She said, well, he's probably out in the yard. I said, no, I haven't seen him in the yard. And he said, well, he's probably next door. I went next door and then asked them if they seen him. They said he hadn't been over there.
As soon as Isabel Reasoner realized her 4-year-old grandson was missing, she began searching for him.
He was just too quiet. That's when I started to think, did he really mean it when he said he's going to run away? So I better go check.
CHP officer Phil Ochoa drove to the location they thought Michael was calling from.
When I got to the gas station, I looked for the telephones. I saw a male adult there.
Our units advising that Michael's not at the Chevron station.
At that time, I decided to continue the search.
Michael, could you do something for me?
What?
If you see a highway patrolman in a black and white police car drive up, could you tell me that?
No.
I know you don't see one yet, but if he does drive up, can you tell me that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see one. You can see one now?
Okay, stay on the phone with us, Michael, though. Don't go away, okay?
But it turned around. It turned around? Yeah.
CHP, he says he can see your officer.
Michael? Michael? What? Are you still there? Yes.
Okay, Michael, tell me if you see the highway patrolman again, but don't leave the phone, okay? Don't leave the phone.
Okay. Just hold on. I'm going to go back. No, you wait.
Wait for me.
Poor Michael was just in a panic. And so we were both saying, no, Michael, it's all right. He'll be right back. It's okay.
Are you still there, Michael? Yes. Okay. Well, don't hang up. Well, no, he's not going to leave you. Just wait right there, okay? You stay on the phone because he knows you're on the phone. So you stay right on the phone with us. I know he can see me like I'm out. He can see you?
weight off your shoulders. Somebody was there with him. He wasn't a little 4-year-old out there by himself any longer.
Yeah, there should be a deputy driving up. Oh, there he is. Can we hang out now? We certainly can. Thank you very much for your help. You bet. Okay, bye-bye.
It's always good when you can solve the problem in a positive way. And we were able to keep him on the line. We did get an officer to him. And I knew that the officer would be able to find wherever he belonged.
We were starting to try to ask him questions, but we didn't know where he lived. We didn't know his address.
We were going down the street, looking on both sides. We were coming down to the phone booth. I said, oh no. I said, there's Mikey. I said, that's Mikey right there in the telephone booth.
The problem was resolved when his frantic grandmother came running and screaming happily up to where we were with the little boy, and we were able to give him back to her.
Michael, he felt like, well, I was ignoring him. And I think he got a little bit upset. He got mad at me, and then he told me he was going to run away. He probably thought, well, he's going to do something that's going to get my attention, which it did.
Young children, from the time they're able to talk, should be taught by their parents what their first, their middle, and their last name is, their street address, and their telephone number. And this is an important lesson I think we all learned in this case.
We taught him his phone number and his address, because if anything like this happened, like the policeman, when they found him, all he would have had to tell them was his name and address, and they would have known right where to go.
Since we had my phone number and my address, and I'm never gonna run away again.
My first impression looking at the car was it's hard to believe that anyone come out of that car alive.
He's
stuff you can't get anywhere.
Called EXT, which includes the only...
It's not a recreation. It's one story from the late night shift at R. Adams College Shock Trauma Center in Baltimore.
Howard County 911, we need the police, fire department, or ambulance.
We need medical emergency and police. There's a terrible accident on Prairie Quarter and Town Mill. Howard County 911.
Yeah, somebody's laying on the ground with slight inches.
Rescue line 31, section 3, over 511. For first engine accident.
A small car had gone out of control and crashed into a telephone pole.
Myself was the third police car on the scene. My first impression of looking at the car was it's hard to believe that anyone come out of that car alive. You could practically stick your head through the driver's door by the telephone pole and stick it out the passenger side. It was so close. The seats was practically on top of each other. It's probably going to be one of the worst that I've seen anyone live out of.
En route, the paramedics called the trauma center. Dr. Brad Cushing is the trauma surgeon on call.
They don't call you for the easy ones. It's difficult. I'm not there at the scene. Can't see what it is that they're telling me. And I'm the one that has to make the decision.
The victim is the 17-year-old driver. Though critically injured, Chad Ritchie had crawled out of the crushed car before the paramedics could reach him.
Are you breathing okay? You starting to start. Huh?
Why?
Yeah, you.
Not fast.
Okay, slow it down. Do you have any pain in your chest? Squeeze my hand.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Let me have your arm here, buddy.
18 minutes fast.
How you doing, sweetie? Okay? You're in the hospital now, hon. It's a trauma center.
Yeah,
You're
no,
there.
it's
Slow into deep breaths, baby. Who's darn stop sign, huh, hon?
Okay, we had a couple drinks tonight.
Yes.
When did you eat dinner?
You didn't eat.
You didn't eat, okay? What, you want us to come?
Give me a phone number somebody has to call for you.
596.
596.
416.
Is that your parents? What's your last name?
Hold your head.
Hold your head, no still.
As I just stated, x-rays would determine the extent of his injuries. Right now, he's being screened and evaluated.
X-ray. Take a deep breath for me. Blow it out. Take a deep breath and hold it.
Chad clearly was hit from the left side here. Has the fractures that you see here, 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 down and through here, all the posterior backside. So he's going to have a real good lung injury, and he's at real high risk of having splenic injury or anything like that. Anybody focus on Chad?
Yes.
Hi.
Richard and Elaine Ritchie had been asleep when they got the midnight call about their youngest son's accident.
Yeah, he's okay, but we've got some work to do. We need to talk to you about some stuff. I'm Dr. Cushing. Hi, your mom? Go ahead, have a seat. I'm going to go a little quick because I have to go right back up. We're taking him to the operating room. He has some broken ribs. He has some blood in the lung. That's going to be all right. He does have some internal bleeding inside the abdomen, and that's why we're going to the operating room right now. Can't promise you anything at this point. Yeah. He won't. It's too late. He's already in the operating room. I apologize for rushing, but I gotta get back up there with him. He's holding his own right now just fine. Okay? Your folks' job is to kind of hold tight for us, okay? Okay, we'll keep you posted on anything that changes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'll quit this job if it becomes pure routine and doesn't affect me, and we're far from that.
In the operating room upstairs, Chad has been prepped for the surgery which will determine the extent of his internal injuries and try to stop the bleeding.
We do save more than 90% of the patients that we are involved with. The majority that you can go home feeling good about.
Chad's surgery will last until the early hours of the morning.
It's an isolated injury, but I think it's a pretty bad sprain. I think I'll take it out.
I agree with that. That looks like that goes right down the aisle.
There's no other major source of bleeding, but we'll look carefully once we get this out of the way.
Diaphragm is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would take that one out.
It's going to get too much. You got some 306 on?
Chad had a massively injured spleen with cracks through it that went right down into the base of the spleen called the hilum. Safest thing to do at this point for Chad was to actually remove that spleen. I think Chad's doing really very well right now. I'd be glad to be able to go down and talk to his family a little bit more about that and make him feel better about the fact that at least long term he's probably going to be okay.
Talk to him.
Chad, can you hear me? Don't say anything. Just get well. Can you hear me? Chad, I love you, darling, and I'm going to take care of you. Okay? And it's going to be okay, honey. He's going to take care of you. Okay? You hear me, darling? Just get well quick.
Our role in treating Chad is to treat not just his injuries, but also to try and treat the fact
It's not a recreation. It's one story from the late night shift at R. Adams College Shock Trauma Center in Baltimore.
Her turn, 911. Can you get the police, fire department, or an ambulance?
We need medical emergency.
Without a spleen.
I'm looking forward to just having things get back to normal again, having us fight over trivial things, seeing his friends come back and forth, hearing the phone ring, and not having to say Chad's in the hospital. That's what I'm looking forward to, things going back to normal, because normal, the way it was, looks pretty good now.
Today on Rescue 911, a faulty furnace ignites into a propane fireball,
I thought at first that the house had been hit by lightning.
leaving 2 children fighting for their lives. Then, a runaway log
And Harold says, my hips broke, and he says, I'm crushed inside.
puts a lumberjack in danger.
Harold's dying. There's nothing I can do.
Emergency crews go out on a limb on Rescue 911.
On June 21st, 1988, Bill Walter and his family were living in a small wood frame house on the cattle ranch he was managing on the eastern plains of Colorado. Actors have helped us reconstruct what happened inside the Walter home on that summer afternoon. But all the volunteer and professional rescuers have returned to help us tell the story of a courageous family and a caring community.
I was in the kitchen, and I was getting ready to fix our supper. And I had turned on the hot water to wash my hands, and it came out cold.
No, we don't have any hot water.
Assuming that the pilot light had gone out on the water heater, I asked my husband, Bill, to go down to the basement and relight it for us.
Come on, you guys. Get your shoes on.
When we continue,
Their whole lives were being changed just in an instant. That's what flashed through my mind.
Our pal Walker has some new buddies he wants you to meet.
If you're not going to use a contract,
they're experts in the fresh stuff.
This hospital specializes. I can play games with my friends. I can walk. Will today be the day you send your love to the rescue? Please go online right now to loveshriners.org to give your monthly support so more kids get the care they need to be kids.
There are a million reasons to give, and I
am one of them.
Thank you.
Please, call or go online right now. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org right away to give. Your gift shows you care.
The children were planning to go out and help do chores with their dad, so they were sitting at the top of the stairs putting their shoes on.
as in many remote areas, the Walters water heater was fueled by propane, a colorless gas.
I had fed our baby Abby and put her to bed. I thought at first that the house had been hit by lightning. That's all I could think of. Bill was hollering, the kids were screaming, And the first vision that I saw of them was unrecognizable. I realized that an accident had occurred and that they were burned. And the only thing that I could remember was to dial 911.
911.
Operator Lori Manuel transferred the call to Sheriff's Dispatcher Renee Pethick and stayed on the line in case she could help.
I heard children screaming in the background. It's a scream that I've never heard before.
Their whole lives were being changed just in that instant. That's what flashed through my mind.
The call for help went out. Volunteer emergency services were the first to respond. Neighbors from across the county were alerted through a system of pagers.
3560 Alabama Highway. We have 2 children and 1 adult.
Everybody that heard the call realized the seriousness of it.
CDSO3 volunteers respond to a propane explosion.
You take your fire gear and you're out the door. If you're going towards the station, you may pick up equipment. If the call is on your end of the area, you just go direct.
Volunteer Gene Willard, a trained emergency medical technician, stopped to pick up the ambulance.
It makes the adrenaline pump. You have friends, you have neighbors, and you may pick them up and they may die right in your arms.
Cindy Walters was still on the phone with the fire department when the first rescuers arrived. Jean's daughter, Shauna Nelson, an off-duty Colorado Springs paramedic, took charge at the scene.
The treatment of burn patients is going through my mind. Burns are always difficult to handle. I had seen burn patients before, but I wasn't prepared for what I did see.
You walk in, and this goes through your mind in a flash. If I pick her up, I'm going to hurt her. If I pick her up, I'm going to contaminate her. But she has to be moved, she has to get in the hospital, and you don't have time to waste.
When the pool of propane gas exploded, a fireball shot up the cinder block stairway and out of the house. The 2 children sitting on the stairs were both severely burned.
I was extremely concerned about Adam. He actually did stop breathing at one point for about 30 to 45 seconds. I yelled at him and I did a sternal rub, and he began breathing again. I kept thinking, what's going to happen to this family? I thought that perhaps the children might die. And I really didn't even have the time to say, Mr. Walters, if there's anything you want to say to these 2 children, say it now.
Cindy Walters followed her family to the hospital.
When they came out and they were on the gurneys and they wheeled them past us, you wouldn't have known who they were. Their hair was gone, their eyelashes and eyebrows. They were swollen, almost twice the size that they had been. When Megan came through, I knew she couldn't hear me, but I leaned over to her and I touched the top of her head and I said, honey, I love you. And the rest of her hair fell out my hand. And I thought that was the end. My children aren't even there anymore.
Megan, Adam, and their father Bill were transported to the regional burn center at Penrose Hospital in Colorado Springs. Plastic surgeon Alexander McCullough was on call that night.
All 3 of the patients were in very critical condition with 2nd and 3rd degree burns. no question that their lives were in danger.
From that time on, I really prayed that they would die. I did not want them to live through the pain that they would have, through the disfigurements and also the social shunning. And so I did. I prayed that way. And then in the morning, when they were still alive, I thought, well, I need to change my thinking. They're alive this long, and we need to work with this now.
Months of skin grafts and slow healing began, especially for Megan and Adam.
When we were real sick in the hospital, it was really confusing because we really didn't know what happened to us at that time. We couldn't talk.
We had to dress them, we had to feed them, we had to do everything for them.
Within weeks, they were outfitted with special silicone masks and elastic bodysuits to help reduce the scarring. They started a program of intensive therapy to increase their mobility.
Then began our process of little miracles. They began to heal in different things. Even though the outside of them was changed and would never be the same, the inside was still there, and I was thankful for that.
A year later, the Walters had begun to build a new life. They never went back to the house that brought them so much sadness.
Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for watching over us.
I'm very proud of my children because of what's happened. They will have to exceed what is acceptable for the normal person. In ways, I wished I had the same determination and stamina as they did.
You got 2 runs
Are you getting better at hitting the ball?
Yeah.
All of the patients have done very well. As time goes by, usually the scars improve.
I go run. It's kind of like...
I expect that they'll be able to do pretty much what they want to do in the future.
Their bodies always will look like they have been burned, and there will be differences there. We want to give the kids the self-confidence inside that they can deal with that. We have told both the kids that they are special, and that because of what they've gone through, they're going to be able to reach people that others can't. And so I'm anticipating something really special.
I think part of living, the biggest part of living, is learning how to live life, no matter what the conditions are. So it's not a cause for giving up or quitting.
It's kind of like an adventure. When you're going through the jungle and you don't know what's going to pop up. I think it's really going to be good.
Next.
As long as you keep your eyes and ears open, and watch out what you're doing, it's really not all that dangerous.
Meet Joy.
I like watching trees fall down. You watch them fall, they hit the ground, and they kind of bounce around like a fish out of water. And as long as you keep your eyes and ears open and watch out what you're doing, it's really not all that dangerous. We started work about 6 o'clock and we worked straight through. I was cutting on timber on my strip, which is where I cut trees down and butt them into log length. And Harold was working his strip, doing the same thing. And we worked for several hours that morning. He fell a tree, and then he jumped up on it and bucked it into log length.
They'd already been working for 6 hours that day when Harold noticed a log up the hill from him that looked unstable.
He looked back at it. He realized that log there was nothing holding it there. It was on a steep side hill, probably 65% slope, and he looked at that log up there and thought, this doesn't look safe.
Harold tested the stability of the 3,000-pound log. But when he found he could not move it, he returned to work on the slope below. John could not hear Harold's whistle or cries for help because he was wearing earplugs.
I was gasping myself, and as I gasped up, I looked back down the hill, and I didn't see Harold or where he should be or anything else other than his saw and his hard hat. So I pulled my earplugs out at that time to listen down, and as I pulled my earplug out, I could hear him say, "John, get me out of here." I was real scared for him, and so I dropped everything at that point. I was afraid when I first seen him, and Harold says, "My hips broke," and he says, "I'm crushed inside, John. I can feel it."
John had enough training in emergency first aid to realize the seriousness of his friend's injuries.
His pelvis was either crushed or broken, and there was blood seeping from the head of the atrium at that point. And I knew then how serious his injuries really were. And with the logs being unstable and rolling around, if they rolled, that top log would just crush him to death right there. So at that point, I run to my pickup and called for help. And I picked up the truck driver who was working on a different logging site not too far, a couple miles away from us. And I said, "It's your ball. You have got to get me help as quick as you can. Harold's dying. There's nothing I can do for him."
Hey, guys! Somebody's hurt over on John's side! Head on over there!
While John continued to radio for help, 3 loggers set out to run the 3 miles to the site where he and Harold had been working. A trucker in Bellingham was the next to pick up John's urgent call. He quickly got the basic information about the location of the accident and ran to the nearest phone to call 911.
Yes, I was listening on TV on Channel 7, and the guy that wanted an ambulance and a helicopter where the logger was in on Canyon Lake Road.
The first information was immediately relayed, and 3 ground medical units were dispatched to the scene.
Mr. Kendall, can you pass the word along that that flight will be in the air in just a few minutes?
I will do.
Sure? Thanks for helping.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
There's no doubt he was in shock, and when he was laying there, he said, "You think I could possibly die?" And I told him, "Harold, I don't know, you're going to die, believe me, but you better not die right now."
It took about an hour to get to the scene by the rough and winding logging roads. The first unit to arrive was the Welcome Volunteer Fire Department, led by EMT John Heiser.
We're running out of time, and it's what they call, the surgeons call the golden hour. You know, the first hour after some major trauma like this, they want that individual in the hospital. His best chances of surviving are within that first hour. And we just about used that up getting there.
Worried that the log might roll back onto Harold again and kill him, the loggers decided to risk moving him.
Harold was still conscious and alert, but at that time, John Heiser was coming around the corner with his stuff and the spine board, and then all we had to do then at that point is lift Harold and set him on the spine board, and help started coming real quick after that.
Paramedic Tony McQuinn was next.
We found Harold talking, but he was in severe pain. He was very pale. He didn't have a palpable pulse on his wrist, and any movement at all, he would wince or yell in pain. He had lost a lot of blood because of his injuries, so he placed what's called mask pants on him and inflated those to stabilize his pelvis. He needed a surgeon immediately.
By road, it could take an hour and a half to get Harold to the hospital. By helicopter, it would take only 8 minutes, and every minute counted.
At that point, I was demoralized. I just, like losing your best friend, basically, and that's what it was. That's how I felt at that point. It was more than I could handle at the time, and try to keep myself calm. And then when they finally put him in the helicopter, at that point there was a real loss. Something was being taken away from me, and I didn't know if Harold was still going to be alive when I got to the hospital to see him.
Harold was flown to St. Joseph Hospital South Campus in Bellingham. Dr. Marvin Wayne headed the emergency team.
Whenever we hear of pelvic injuries, a patient can literally bleed to death because of bleeding in that area of the body. So with the extent of the...
I like watching trees fall down. You watch them fall, they hit the ground, and they kind of bounce around like a fish out of water. And as long as you keep your eyes and ears open and watch out where you move, it's really not all that dangerous. We start
up and continue to march on with life.
I would do anything for Harold. And whether or not Harold ever comes back to work in the woods again, old Harold and I will still be going fishing and we'll still be going hunting because we don't work on the weekends.
Today on Rescue 911, terror in the aisles. A crazed gunman holds an entire supermarket hostage.
And I felt as though this could be the day that we die.
Now the lives of the victims are in the hands of one brave woman. Then, after-school fun takes a deadly turn.
We didn't realize the first time that it was her until we seen the bone sticking out the bottom of his ankle.
And a teenager's life hangs in the balance on Rescue 911.
On August 1st, 1987, 22-year-old Ann Atchison and her mother pulled up outside a neighborhood grocery store in Elkhart, Indiana. They didn't notice anything wrong. But Ann and the other survivors who helped reenact the story had only come for groceries. They never expected to become victims.
It was just before closing on a Saturday afternoon.
We went up to the front of the store where the checkouts were. And I told my mom to stay there a minute because I had a few things I had forgotten. As I'm walking toward the back, the stock boy walked out real stiff. I knew something was wrong. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but it had occurred to me that it was possibly a gunman because of the look on the stock boy's face. As I was walking out toward the front of the store, I kept thinking to myself, there's a really, really good chance that you're going to get a bullet in your back. All I could think of at that point was that I had to get my mom out of the store. What's wrong? But I found these proofs. We gotta go do it now. As we were walking into the entrance, I turned around and I motioned to the manager that there was a gun in the back of the store. I knew that he saw me, but I realized that he probably had no idea what I was talking about. All I knew was that I had to leave the store and get to a telephone right away to call the police.
When we continue.
All right, everybody down! On the floor!
When he came down the aisle with Chris, the first thing he said was, "Get down on the floor now." He said, "The life of this boy is in your hands." I believed him too.
Over who switched to the heart. Help you join in it.
Somebody had a gun there. So I didn't really know what to do. I kind of panicked, I guess. There was more of an inner panic. I mean, I don't really think the customers knew that I was panicking, but they knew something was going on.
Store manager Steve Demos had no time to do anything.
All right, everybody down! On the floor!
When he came down the aisle with Chris, the first thing he said was, "Get down on the floor now." And then he said, "The life of this boy is in your hands." I believed him too.
When I got to the video store, I immediately went up to the manager and I told him that the grocery store next door was possibly being robbed and that I needed to get to a telephone right away. So he dialed 911 and called city police.
911 immediately dispatched the county sheriffs.
I just finished conducting an investigation of a fatal accident and I heard the phone. They told me while I was Now there's 57 in progress, which is a possible armed robbery in progress. For some reason, I thought this one was real.
Patrolman John Perry headed to the scene. On a portable phone outside the video store, Anne tried to convince the sheriffs that she had seen a robbery in progress.
I looked back, but there was something else I wanted. And I saw one person first. And they were walking back and forth across the aisle. And I looked, and there was another guy maybe right and back. But yes, that's the guy in front of me.
Okay. You're at the video store here.
Yes.
Can you see from there that anyone is leaving?
I saw cars go in and come out, and at this point, there's no one leaving.
Why everything down?
They were inseparable. They were like Siamese twins. He had the back of Chris's collar, and he had a gun to his head the whole time.
Hostage Chris Hooley's life was in the hands of his best friend, Steve Deist.
I want everything you spill. And all in there.
So we already cleaned out the outer safe. We got to the inner safe. And he wanted to open. I just tried to explain to him as calmly as possible that, it'll open up in 15 minutes. There's no other way to get open. That's when Chris knew his life was in danger.
This safe will open in 15 minutes.
When the gunman was not looking, Cindy Calkins pulled her 3-week-old baby into the safety of her lap.
There were a few times when his squeaky shoes come by. It would frighten me so bad. A couple of times I almost cracked. And I felt as though this could be the day that we die.
As I pulled out front, it looked like nothing was going on. Everything seemed to be in order. There wasn't any car that parked there. There was somebody waiting for him. Armed robbers normally don't do a job by themselves because there's a risk. And there wasn't anything out of order until the time that I walked in and seen the people lay on the floor.
Right there!
He probably tripled.
Only 4 months out of the academy, Patrolman Brian Lakey was the second sheriff on the scene.
In your mind, you try to almost tell yourself it's not real. This can't be real, but it is real, and it's happening.
Drop it! Drop your gun and come in here. I'll kill everybody here.
I was not going to surrender my weapon under any circumstance, and I knew that I couldn't take a shot without endangering the hostage.
All of a sudden, I hear this freeze, and that guy says, "Get out of here, I'm going to kill them all." Good, that's just what we need. Get shot.
You have used the back door?
I'm standing right by the door. John Perry hollers out. They're heading towards the back. So I know they're coming towards me, and I have to find some place to hide. I didn't feel any fear. It was just kind of an adrenaline pump cruising all through my body. It was a wild feeling. I see that the gun is cocked. He's got the hammer back, and he's ready to do the kid. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to kill the kid. Then the other cop comes up, and he takes the mask off the person. And that was kind of hard for me when he took the mask off, because, as long as he had the mask on, he looked like a monster, sort of. But he takes the mask off, and it's a person then, and it's tough. It's not a good ending, but it's probably the best one that could happen under these circumstances.
The 29-year-old gunman died of his wounds at the hospital. 22 minutes after their ordeal began, all 10 hostages were free.
I'm very, very against killing in any sense, and so that bothered me for a little while, but I was very happy that Officer Lakey handled it the way he did, because there was no doubt in my mind at the time that we were fleeing the scene that the robber was going to kill me. I mean, no matter what happened, whether he got away or not, if he had the opportunity, he was going to shoot me because I had seen his face.
I can't go in that store again. I did it first. I forced myself. I didn't want what the gunman did to interfere with my normal life pattern, but it does. Once you're a victim, you stay a victim.
I got to have a second chance at life. I mean, I know I didn't die or anything, but I came close enough that I'm not going to just throw it away and be mean to other people and just waste my life on drugs and things like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm too lucky to have that option.
I don't think that what I did was anything beyond and above the call of duty. I think anyone in my situation would have done the same thing, or at least should have.
We're still alive, and thank you. I think each and every one of us thank you for the help that you gave for us.
Next.
It was always kind of a prank, you know, for all of us to be swinging on there and somebody say, boy, that's high. If that line had to break or somebody fell off that, there's no way they would live through it.
Johnny Cash has got special guests Merle Haggard and Charlie Pride.
Galveston, oh, Galveston. And took care of me right away.
I do have a sense that they have my back. Customer service is just excellent. They're in a class by themselves.
We're proud to have received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 8 times in a row.
You couldn't persuade me right now to switch from Consumer Cellular.
They've made me a customer for life.
Switch today and for a limited time get a $50 credit on any new line of service. Call 1-800-621-6416. Go online or visit a Target store today.
More bang for your buck than that's money in your pocket.
On April 16th, 1991, in Welsh, West Virginia, 17-year-old Donnie Trent and his best friend, Ricky Riggs, left school early with another friend.
Usually whenever we skipped school, we would go out back to our swing in the vines. All over the woods, there's big vines that's attached to trees, and all you gotta do is cut loose at the bottom of them, and you can swing out on them. Everybody around, it's been going on around here for a long time. It's always kind of a prank, you know, for all of us to be swinging on there and somebody say, boy, that's high. That's awful high. If that vine had to break or somebody fell off that, they said there's no way they would live through it. When Steve got back, Donnie grabbed the vine. And he swung out, and it got to its highest point where it would stop and then start coming back. I really didn't know whether he was going to be dead or not. I just knew I had to get down there.
Johnny, get help, man, get help!
I looked at Donnie, and he was moving somewhat. We didn't realize at first how bad he was hurt until we seen the bone sticking out of the bottom of his ankles. And I took my shirt off and wrapped it around his hand and told him to squeeze onto it and hold it.
Careful, careful!
I was scared to move him, scared that his back was probably hurt or his neck could be hurt, anything. We were so far back in the woods, all I could think about doing was keeping him calm until help got there.
We're getting somebody for you right now.
He was bleeding pretty bad through his ankles. Then his head started to swell, where it hit his head on a rock, and the side of his face was starting to turn blue. And we realized by then that if we didn't get help a lot faster than what was coming, that he would die. And Steve started running up the mountain to go see if he could get him to hurry up any faster. I was there alone with him for a long time. It's one of the worst feelings I've ever felt. You just feel completely useless. I couldn't do nothing until help got there.
What happened?
It was quite a distance from the school. We had to run down the road and down over the hillside to where the accident occurred.
Athletic trainer Ed Evans tried to assess the youth's condition.
You know who I am? Hey, give me the bag, give me the bag.
You know who I am?
His feet were so mangled, only a small portion of the Achilles tendon and some muscle, about an inch or so, was all that was holding his feet on. He had bled so much, his blood pressure was almost nil. I could see the blood vessels in his legs. I just pinched down on him with my thumb and my forefingers, and he was so empty, it slowed the blood flow down. I'm not a paramedic. I am a first aider. I treated on the football field many, many injuries, but nothing that said to me, this kid could die in front of you. We very quickly lifted him onto that backboard, and we went.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go, get out of here.
It was extremely steep and very difficult for us to walk up. We had to hold on to trees and small saplings, whatever we could grab, to pull ourselves up the hill. Donnie screamed and hollered all the way up that mountain.
Rescue units with McDowell County Ambulance Authority arrived within a half hour of Donnie's accident.
We met them about halfway between the fall site and the school. I was tremendously relieved to see the paramedics.
Battalion Chief Douglas Klein took charge at the scene.
I was really surprised that they did have him on the backboard. I went ahead and grabbed his head to hold his neck still.
McDowell Control Medic 16 on scene, trauma alert 1, scramble health net.
He was in very critical condition, and things were starting to become a little fuzzy to him.
Okay, guys, we've got a large fall here. Compound fractures. Let's get the mask on. C-spine first. He's got bleeding direct pressure with pressure points.
We put on an anti-shock trouser suit to help control the bleeding. The fractures were the worst that I've ever seen in 11 years of service. It frightened me that with the wrong move, the wrong touch, we could actually pull his foot off of his leg. We were fighting against time because we were a mile or so back into the woods.
Hey, Donnie, how you doing, man?
It was a long, slow process because we had to keep from moving the patient around as much as possible.
A Health Net helicopter landed at the high school and waited for them. Donnie's father, Raymond Trent, had been notified that his son had been in an accident.
I figured it was a broken leg or something, but I saw the paramedics. They were just covered with blood. I knew it was bad then when I saw them. So I went around and got in the front door and sat down beside of them. And at that point was when I really seen the condition that Donnie was in. I didn't see how he was even alive at that point. Every time it hit a little bump in the animal's head, I went, oh God, it hurts. I told him I was there. I said, honey, Daddy's here. Reached down and kissed him. He told me, he said, Dad, if it don't make it, he said, I love you. And said, you tell them all that I love you. Tore the inside of me out. That's the hardest thing I ever went through in my life. All I could think of was Donnie and what I was going to tell his mother. And all I could think of was tell her the truth, prepare her.
And I said, no way will he die. I said, it just can't happen. And my husband would say, but honey, you didn't see him. Honey, you didn't see him.
Donnie was airlifted to the trauma unit of Charleston Area Medical Center 70 miles away, where he was examined by orthopedic surgeon Michael Fittler.
We'll try not to hurt you anymore, okay?
The broken bones were lying open in the air, and there was a lot of dirt and debris ground into these injured bones.
We're going to have to check that head out. Looks like you might have something going on there.
He had suffered a head injury that caused actually a small blood clot on the brain.
Surgery for Donnie had its increased risks because of his head injury. But this was a risk that had to be taken because there was no doubt that he would lose both of his feet, certainly, if we did not proceed with haste.
It took Donnie's parents 2.5 hours to drive to the hospital.
Hi, I'm Dr. Fiddler.
Dr. Fiddler said he's still alive. He told us that if Donnie lives, he said, I want him to be able to walk. But if I want to save his feet, he says, I've got to do it now. He says, I can't wait 1 minute.
I simply had to tell them that we would do the best we could, but that the outcome was certainly uncertain. I'm a little unsure how things are going to go tonight, right this minute. But
I had to see my son. I felt like I had to see him because as bad as they had told me that he was, he might not make it through surgery. And one more time, I wanted to put my arms around him. And I wanted to tell him how much that I loved him. But they had already moved him. And I did not get to see my son before he went.
And took care of me right away.
I do have a sense that they have my back. Customer service is just excellent. They're in a class by themselves.
Ricky called me down on the mouse, you know, he'd sit there and he'd talk to me, and he's a good fella.
All I can say is we were friends. Friends down around here stick together. Especially in an instant like that.
Today on Rescue 911, ultralight disaster. 2 friends on a flying adventure. And then, the unthinkable.
It's just a heartsick feeling.
On land, sea, and in the air, rescuers take off in pursuit of a downed pilot. Then, an older woman is home alone. What happens next will shock you. On Rescue 911.
A cry for help takes on special meaning when the person whose life is at stake is someone we know and love. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of bravery and determination in the face of extraordinary odds on Rescue 911. We begin on the morning of August 17th, 1991, as 2 friends set out together on an adventure in the desert just outside Las Vegas, Nevada.
Flying an ultralight is probably as close to flying like a bird as you can get. It is true seat of the pants flying. Like slow motion. It is a totally overwhelming feeling.
Dale Simpson had been flying ultralight aircraft for more than a year. His best friend, Ray Elam, was new to the sport and had flown solo for the first time the day before when he completed his training.
Basically, you're looking down at your feet, and then below that is the world.
That day, Ray was flying an ultralight he had just bought. After testing it in the desert, they took off across Lake Mead.
It's beautiful to fly over Lake Mead, especially along the coastline. Unfortunately, the terrain's a little hostile. Because of all the caverns and low high pressure, it is very difficult to predict the wind and weather patterns out there. The aircraft he purchased flew a little bit faster and was probably a little more difficult to fly than what he trained in. I did give him advice not to fly that airplane that day. I offered my airplane, which was of the forgiving type. But there wasn't anybody going to keep him out of that airplane. I was the lead airplane through and radioed back to him, hey, it's getting a little rough in here, let's get out. Being a low-time pilot, I didn't want him in any rough air at this time. There was still no response. That was alarming because communication was so crystal clear and we were so close. I probably already put him in a bad situation by being where I was, in the position of the lake. You always think about the worst, I guess. You can see the silhouette of the outline of his aircraft, and then you can see the mountain. Well, at first you lose your depth of field when you see that. So at first I thought, okay, he's all right, he's fine. And then there's that split second where you know it. It's just a heartsick feeling. It can't be real. This cannot have happened.
When we continue.
As far away as we are from Las Vegas and from a trauma center, I didn't think that there was any possibility we could get the patient there alive.
Get ready to hit the trail all day Saturday and Sunday.
We will ride to hell and back if that is what it takes.
From sun up to sundown. Head west with the Trailblazers. What does it take to survive here? Gunslingers.
I believe this belongs to you.
And rugged individuals.
Morning, Elizabeth.
That pioneered the American dream.
That's right.
Under the big sky. All weekend, every weekend. Starting this.
Call now.
When Ray Elam's ultralight plane crashed on the rocky shores of Lake Mead, he was trapped in the wreckage where no one could get to him. As his best friend tried to find a place to land his own aircraft safely, some boaters on the lake spotted what was left of the plane and went to get help.
Robert Wolf and Al Jensen were at a nearby marina when word of the crash reached them.
I dialed 911, and then that's when I said, Al, I've got the medical kit, let's go.
501-512, Beach Rescue.
The National Park Service radioed for anyone in the area who could help.
It looked pretty bad when we first saw it. We weren't sure if he even lived at first. The way he hit that cliff, though, I don't know how fast he was going, but any wave from the water that would hit that wing, you could see the plane move. My first reaction was, okay, if the plane's falling in the water, let's stop it, you know.
I need some help.
We found out then, okay, he was alive.
Line with a sledgehammer. Grab it out.
We were just trying to secure the plane without moving him.
Hold on, buddy, we're coming. Need some help.
You keep saying to yourself, he's going to walk out of there. He probably didn't hit the cliff that hard. He probably landed on top of the cliff and tumbled down. He's going to be all right. Better judgment, of course, is telling you something different.
Oh, it's slipping more. Hold on to it.
Then once we got the plane secure, it kind of got worse. He was complaining about gas, and no one had climbed underneath the plane yet to where he was.
I have gas in my eye. I need gas all over. There's gas every place. Pretty bad.
The gas was coming down the side of the mountain and then out on the water. So just that ignition of a boat.
Take those boats out of here. There's gas all over here. Shut off your engine. One down. There's gas all over the place.
There was no question he was hurt bad. There's a bar that's going down in his leg. He's got another puncture wound underneath him that's severe and bleeding heavily. And we were flying without helmets. We're supposed to fly with him.
734-12.
State Game Warden Frank Shapes put out the call for an air ambulance.
It's in a remote part of the state of Nevada. Hospitals are a ways away. Everybody out here works together, just not because we want to, but it's out of necessity.
Watch that red handle. What's that red handle do? That's a rocket.
Ultralight aircraft have a ballistic recovery chute with a rocket deployed.
Yeah, blow us right off this cliff. Okay. Hold tight, buddy. Hold tight. Help's on the way.
Strap the mask, Chris.
EMT Renee Jones was part of the medical crew that had to be ferried across the lake by park volunteers.
Our first thought when we saw the aircraft was that that was going to be one of those scenes where we work our hearts out, and as far away as we are from Las Vegas and from a trauma center, I didn't think that there was any possibility we'd get the patient there alive. He was in an incredible position. If he'd have gone into full arrest in that aircraft, he'd be gone. I mean, there'd be no way. You can't do CPR. We couldn't even really well manage an airway.
I can't get to you, buddy, but I'm right there.
He's done things for me in the middle of the night when I've been in trouble. Dropped what he was doing. He was there. You can't imagine the guilt. It's tough to talk about.
The Flight for Life helicopter arrived with the crew, including flight nurse Keith Frederick.
We realized that the golden hour was ticking and that there wasn't much time left.
I'll get you a hand when you got it. Where's that hacksaw? You got a hacksaw yet?
He'd probably sustained neck and back injuries, and from just the mechanism alone, we're concerned about other injuries that he could have possibly sustained, which would have been internal in nature.
All right, we got it right here. And fail logic here. Yeah. Give me more dressing. Okay, he's gonna go now. He's gonna go when I break loose. Okay, backboard, drive by.
He was maintaining a fairly good level of consciousness while he was hanging upside down. But as soon as he was spinally immobilized on a board, he started to lose consciousness very rapidly, and it was real nip and tuck.
The pole that went in him was hollow, 1.5 inches hollow. When it went in him, which it was about 3.5, 4 inches, it took all the meat back out with it.
Keep your IVs around the chest.
By the time Ray reached the hospital, his vital signs had begun to stabilize. He was admitted with fractures of the spine, pelvis, and hip, and underwent 3 operations by orthopedic surgeon John Falcott.
He was treated marvelously well in the field, and it's a miracle that he wasn't totally paralyzed from this and didn't die in the water.
He was in an awful position right from the get-go, and it seemed as though all the elements were going to be against us that day. So I was not only surprised, I was damn glad that he made it, I'll tell you.
Now you're a bionic man with all this metal, but playing sports and back to work again.
You heard about that?
As soon as I heard Dale, he yelled to me, "Buddy, you're going to be okay. Buddy, you're going to be okay. I'm here. I'm here." And that meant a lot to me. I think about that that he was there when I needed him.
Ray is a fighter. We're both very competitive. And I think that competitive drive is what's helping him come back.
Throughout my life, I've always done for myself. Never needed anybody, never needed any help. And actually, I was wrong in a big way. Here, I was facing which could have been death in many ways over. And people came from everywhere to do what they could to help me.
The only thing I ever saw the whole time was the back of his head. I could walk up behind him, turn his head around and say, "I know you." But that's it. That's the only way I've seen him so far.
Hello there. Man, I've been a long time to see you. Yeah, I've been a long time to see you walking. Wait a minute. I gotta check something. Turn it
My engine just died, and me being a new pilot, I had my hands full and then some.
Can't be happy with that.
It is a very safe sport, but I'm through flying. I had a very eerie feeling the first time up alone. To me, that's an omen. This is something that I don't need to be doing. And for once, I'm going to let Dale win.
That's good.
That's it.
Next.
911, what is your emergency? Okay, where are they breaking it in?
Call or go online in the next 6 minutes and get 4 bonuses. Bonus number 1, FedEx shipping, free. Bonus number 2, our top-rated Newbie app to keep you on track with fun challenges and even prizes. Bonus number 3, wellness coaches, available 7 days a week without an appointment. They're for you. Bonus number 4, probiotic belly-busting shakes, free.
Don't wait. Be one of the first 300 callers to order or go immediately to the URL on your screen to grab your bonus offers.
Hold everything.
We're having a BOGO sale.
For a limited time, buy 1 month, get 1 free. That's 2 months of weight loss for the price of 1. All these bonus offers have a combined value of over $300, but are yours when you act now. Don't wait. The phone lines are open and the reps are standing by. Call right now.
What are you waiting for? You could have a whole new life ahead of you. Just call now or order online. Either way, don't wait. I know you can do this. Try the new personal plans from Nutrisystem. Change your life today.
Go to Nutrisystem.com/Marie or call 877-971-FIT8 right now to buy 1 month, get 1 free. Plus get 4 bonus offers.
Extra, extra. It's the Get TV newsletter featuring star interviews, fun facts, and schedule highlights. Sign up today at Get.tv.
Maddie and James Snow had lived in the same house in Toledo, Ohio for more than 30 years. Their neighborhood had been going downhill for some time, but with deadbolts on the doors and an aggressive watchdog in the backyard, they'd always felt safe inside their own home.
The last few years, I've been trying to get my mom and my dad to move out of the neighborhood. It's deteriorated. A lot of the homes are torn down. There's a lot of drug sales going on, and there's a lot of mugging and things going on in that particular neighborhood.
On November 9th, 1989, James left for work on a night shift at a coal processing plant around 8 p.m. Until he returned about 8:30 the next morning, his 61-year-old wife, Maddie, would be alone in the house all night. Maddie's call for help came in at 2:42 a.m.
911, what is your emergency? Okay, where are they breaking it in? Okay, I want you to stay in line with me. I'm notifying the police now, okay? Can you tell, what side of the house is he on?
Information about the break-in was immediately relayed to police dispatch by computer. Officers Nearhood and Bechdel responded. Sergeant Daniel Schultz also headed to the scene.
5 dispatch, everyone's ready to take that.
Okay, the police have been notified. They'll be there real soon. I want you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Can you hear anything now? They're coming in? Where are you at? Do you have upstairs and downstairs? No. Is there anything that you can push against the door in the bedroom, like a dresser or a bed? There's no door?
I was trying to get as much time between her and the person coming into the house as possible. I knew that the police weren't going to get there in time because it'd take them at least a couple minutes. And when I realized there wasn't anything I could put between her and the perpetrator, that's when I really got scared. I was really, frightened for her because I wasn't sure what was happening to her. She, I lost contact on the phone with her at that time, and she was basically on her own. And she didn't tell me she had a gun, so when I heard the shots, I wasn't sure what was happening there.
What's going on? I don't know what is going on. You can't hear him no more in the house? I shot at him 3 times. You shot at him? I shot at him 3 times. I don't know whether I hit him or not.
The first officers arrived on the scene.
There's a lot of things that go through our minds. We don't know whether he's armed or not. We don't know whether he's high or not. We don't know whether he's going to be a fighter. He's just going to give up. Believe me, we always like to go home at night in one piece. No scratches or scrapes.
Please! Let down on the ground! Let down on the ground! 18 dispatch, get a suspect in custody.
Okay, let me know where you're at, 7-5.
I was taking him a long time. I knew he was going to come in. It took him too long to get him.
Okay, the police got him. Okay, the police are there, okay? They're in the alley. Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to put that gun down, okay? Put it away. Stick it in the drawer, okay? And I want you to wait for the police to get there. Okay. Okay, the police are coming back there now, okay? Is your gun put away? Yes. Okay, stay on the line with me until the police close the door, okay? Okay.
The suspect appeared extremely shaken, and it appeared he might have been on drugs or some type of alcohol or a mixture of both. He firmly believed he was shot when I had flipped him over after handcuffing him, and I think he was relieved that after I looked him over and told him he wasn't, that he hadn't been shot. He probably didn't figure in his wildest dreams that he'd break into the house and get shot at.
Did you shoot all the shots, Manny?
Yeah,
Okay, fire them all.
fire them all. I knew I was going to die. I know he was coming in to kill me. Because this is what's been going on, and I guess I watch his TV and read the paper and see so many people they're found dead, and I just felt like he was going to kill me.
How close was he when you actually fired?
She didn't know the guy. The guy was highly intoxicated. I'm not saying that everybody should shoot at anybody that breaks into their house, but in that situation, she definitely did fear for her safety, and she did give him every opportunity to leave.
After my kids all got grown and got married, my husband gave me this gun about 10 years ago. He just brought it there and said, in case something happened, here's a gun. And it's always stayed in that holster by the bed.
Statistically, a handgun in the house is more likely to injure you or someone you know than to be used against an intruder. Maddie had been lucky.
Call or go online in the next 6 minutes and get 4 bonuses.
It was really wonderful. I think she really helped me go through what I did. She seemed like that I know somebody was near me. She felt like she was right there, really.
She's a hero if anybody is. She stood up to him, and she was scared, but she stood up to him. She was really brave.
I guess Commando TV doesn't have the Rescue 911 episodes from Tuesday up yet. But let's see, Envision TV has Catch Up TV. Oh, there's Get TV. Doesn't seem to want to play. I don't know what's wrong with it. Let's see. I don't know what's wrong with Envision's TV, Catch Up TV, but it doesn't seem to be working with the Rescue 911. Let me try Infinite TV. Let's see. Catch Up. maybe Infinite TV, maybe they don't have Get TV and Catch Up. I don't know why they wouldn't. Let's see.
million you were looking for.
Yeah, play money. Everyone with my face on it. Could have got a better picture. Is there such a thing? Hey!
Today on Rescue 911, a possible double drowning.
I had a sick feeling last time.
A parent's worst nightmare. Children found unconscious in a swimming pool. Be there as rescuers work frantically to save twin boys from becoming a statistic. Plus, the story is true, the people are real, and the danger is certain. A night in the life of an Oklahoma police department. On Rescue 911.
Childhood is meant to be a time of joy and innocence. But it's also a time when the difference between what is safe and what is dangerous is not yet clear. As Elaine Munyon was tragically reminded on March 4th, 1992, at her home in Shawnee, Kansas.
That morning, Elaine was reading to her 4 oldest children, while her 18-month-old twins, David and Jesse, played nearby.
The older twins always had their big sister who wanted to play too. These guys just kind of have each other, so wherever one goes, the other goes.
So they saved it until the morning as Moses commanded. Eat today, Moses said, because today is the Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the 7th day there will not be any. Nevertheless, some of the people...
It's not often that you get all 4 of them excited about a story at the same time. That was one reason
The people are real, and the danger is certain. A night in the life of an Oklahoma police department. On Rescue 911.
Childhood is meant to be a time of joy and innocence. But it's also a time when the difference between what is safe and what is dangerous is not yet clear. As Elaine Munyon was tragically reminded on March 4th, 1992, at her home in Shawnee, Kansas.
That morning, Elaine was reading to her 4 oldest children, while her 18-month-old twins, David and Jesse, played nearby.
the older twins always had their big sister who wanted to play too. These guys just kind of have each other, so wherever one goes, the other goes.
So they saved it until the morning as Moses commanded. Eat today, Moses said, because today is the Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the 7th day there will not be any. Nevertheless, some of the people...
It's not often that you get all 4 of them excited about a story at the same time. That was one reason
Well, why does it stop playing? You know, I don't understand. I tried to fix it. I don't understand why it's messing up. It won't play.
Not true. They're not.
Sorry, I had to skip ahead
They
through the
know
video.
it's not true. They're not in there. They couldn't be in there.
When we continue.
911, your emergency. I believe I'm sorry.
Who are suffering. Please make this the moment that you say, I won't stand by while they suffer. When you sign up with your monthly gift, you give them the shelter and the love they deserve. Do it in the next 10 minutes, and we'll send you the photo of an animal from our shelter and a free ASPCA t-shirt. If you've wondered if your support will make a difference, I can tell you, it will. And if you've ever thought about helping, this is the time. It's only 63 cents a day. Please go online or call before it's too late.
Extra, extra. It's the Get TV newsletter featuring star interviews, fun facts, and schedule highlights. Sign up today at Get.tv.
I yelled to my daughter to call 911.
County 911, your emergency. What's wrong? Okay, let me transfer you to the ambulance. Don't hang up. Go ahead.
What's the problem?
She said that her mother's outside and the little boy was in the pool and they think he drowned.
Rescue units were immediately dispatched to the address that had automatically come up on the screen.
There was no sign of life. It had been so long since I'd had CPR training that I wasn't sure that I was doing it correctly. I could feel myself starting to slip over the edge into hysteria where all I was going to be able to do was scream.
From across the field, David Rood heard her cries for help.
I could see that she was trying to give CPR to both the babies and scream for help.
Elaine quickly instructed David on how to do CPR.
And I remember feeling guilty about giving David to him, and yet at the same time I knew that it would be much better to have one person for each baby instead of me trying to do them both.
I was getting scared because I didn't know if I was helping. I didn't know if I was doing things right. I was really hoping somebody else would come along and help.
Shawnee Police Officer Larry Burmaster arrived at the house within minutes of the call.
The biggest surprise at that point was to find that there were two victims. I remember thinking that somehow I would have to decide which child to work with, and I really wished that I could do something for both of them.
710 dispatch, we have two victims.
When Shawnee Fire Marshal Jeff Hudson arrived, he recognized Elaine. Just 6 weeks earlier, he had given her family a tour of the local fire station.
I was terrified. I was scared. Jesse wasn't breathing. There was no pulse. He was blue, and his eyes were open, and they were rolled back. He was lifeless.
I remember thinking, that's it, they're both gone. They're just both dead. They won't be able to bring them back.
Within 5 minutes, the first medic units arrived, including paramedic Mark Owens. He immediately went to work on David, whose condition was extremely critical.
He was so cold, all his peripheral veins constricted, so we had to go through the bone into the actual bone marrow and give him IV fluids that way.
Jesse was taken by ambulance to the nearest hospital. His twin brother David, still in critical condition, was taken by helicopter to Children's Mercy Hospital 20 miles away. As soon as Rob Mungan heard what had happened to his youngest sons, he rushed home from work.
I had a sick feeling in my stomach. Elaine said that we need to decide where to go. because they were going to different hospitals.
I guess as their mom, then I needed to be with the one who wasn't going to make it. They brought me right in, and they let me stand right by his head. And I just bent right over, right to his ear, and just sang to him his favorite little nursery songs, and I told him I loved him. They transferred Jesse over later, after he was stabilized. They felt like they would get better faster if they were together.
We asked about the possibility of brain damage. And of course, at that point, they couldn't give us much of an answer. They said it would take some time to tell.
Elaine stayed with her babies through the night.
I remember as the hours went on, and David still didn't wake up, becoming more and more concerned that there would be brain damage. And I remember praying and asking God, please don't take Jesse's playmate away.
The next morning, the twins were examined by pediatric critical care physician Brad Vaughn.
Okay, report. In my experience, the majority of these children that suffer a near-drowning episode will have brain dysfunction. And to see them recover so dramatically and come back to a normal neurologic state was very uplifting and heartwarming.
And where's Jesse's nose? That's right. Yes, that's right. When Jesse reached over and patted David, and David was awake and looking around, I just knew that they were both okay, and I felt like all those broken pieces of my heart were just back together again.
2 months later, Jesse and David have fully recovered without any sign of brain damage.
You just can't ever be too safe with babies. They don't understand danger the way we do. Now we have the pool cover drained, and we never let the babies out on the deck unless an adult is there. We're very thankful for all the emergency workers. I just feel this incredible love for them. I mean, they saved the lives of my children, and I'm so thankful for that.
Say wow. Say wow.
Next. A lot of people think it can't happen in their city, but almost every major city across the country is experiencing some gang problems.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-627-3700. That's 1-800-627-3700 now.
Once every 15 minutes, someone in America is the victim of a shooting. With random acts of gun violence on the rise, our streets are becoming increasingly littered with broken hearts and shattered dreams. This story is not a recreation. It's the terrible reality faced by the Oklahoma City emergency workers on the night of August 4th, 1991.
That night, we had several shootings that occurred in our city involving gang members. I feel like the mood was set for that evening.
10:20 p.m. A taxi dispatcher radios the police for help.
This is Mary Young Cab. I have a driver being shot at Southwest 29th. I don't think he was hit. He said something about making a call again. They said the guy pulled over and the other guy shot him in the head. In the head? Yes. Oh, there's some officers there now, huh? Okay. Thank you.
We drove up on this shooting right after it had occurred, so the chances were good that the suspects were still on the street.
Lincoln 206 headquarters. Have you got M-Care to 521 on 29th? Got a shooting victim here.
Can you tell me what happened? Did somebody just drive by or what?
Yeah, they were
They were talking 90 miles an hour, but of course we need to get information out on the radio as quickly as possible.
A small gray car, a big gray car?
It was a small gray car. It was a sedan. Foreign. It might have been like a Chevy Nova.
Okay, went that way.
It was a new car.
The thing that was unusual that would make the car stick out to us was the fact that it had lights that surrounded the license tag that went around and around the tag.
Kind of small, possibly like a Nova. The rear of the vehicle will have a Christmas tree type decoration going around the tag. And this occurred about 3 minutes ago.
He was trying to hang on. It was obvious. You could see his hands moving. It was a total just fight to stay conscious. The victim does not belong to any gang that we're aware of. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
All I could do is keep on saying, help me, help me. Then we got him out and just took him over to where he could be away from the car and waited.
Is he doing okay?
Come on, Tommy.
What's his name?
Tommy.
Tommy. Tommy, talk to me, bud. You okay?
You won't move your hand, Tommy.
Tommy, move your hand.
Tommy? Tommy?
18-year-old Tommy Bias is rushed to a nearby trauma center, barely clinging to life. When the young victim arrives at South Community Hospital, a trauma team is standing by, led by Dr. Brent Waters.
He has a single gunshot wound to the skull, conscious, but not really alert. Just a little alerted to say what will happen with him right now. He may have irreversible brain damage.
This is always one of the hardest aspects of this job.
Loretta, my name is Carol Cotton. I'm the director in the emergency department at South Community Hospital. Do you have a son by the name of Tommy Bias? I need for you to come to the emergency department. He has been critically injured. He's been shot.
I can't think of anything more horrible than waking up to a phone call that says your son or your child or your family member has been critically injured. It's just a tragedy.
Okay, drive safely though. Please come today. Bye-bye.
At 11 p.m., a second gunshot victim is brought into the same trauma room. Officer Lori Cruz had responded to that shooting.
The victim had been shot through the hand, which had gone into his leg. His friends stated they were going to follow him to the hospital.
Squeeze my fingers. Squeeze. Good.
I waited in my vehicle until they started their car and then observed the rotating lights around the tag.
We got a positive ID on the shooter.
When the vehicle started up, we saw the marquee lights come on the tag. We drew our weapons. They offered absolutely no resistance, and the suspects were placed in the back of the police vehicles.
One of Tommy's friends positively identified the passenger of the vehicle as being the shooter in Tommy's shooting.
Tommy's mother, Loretta Bias, arrives at the hospital.
Loretta, let me tell you what to expect when you go in and see Tommy, okay?
We also have to know he isn't awake and not responding. Now you need to understand I can't tell you whether he can hear you or not. And what I also need to tell you is that the brain scan we talked about out there does not look good, and we can't take Tommy to surgery. Okay, there's too much damage. What happens is when the bullet goes in, it makes a very small hole, but once it goes into the brain, it explodes, and it's done a tremendous amount of damage. There's not anything they can go in and just take out a piece of or fix. More than likely.
If Tommy survives, the suspects will probably be prosecuted for what we would call shooting with intent to kill. If Tommy does not make it, the district attorney is going to have to be looking at some other charge, possibly murder, could be manslaughter.
Young people oftentimes never look at the future. The only thing that a gang has to offer them is either jail or death. Very few of them ever escape out of a gang without one of those two things happening to them.
I want to thank everybody for coming up here. And really what I wanted to do tonight is pray, because the only thing that's going to save him now is a miracle. And we really need that miracle right now. So if y'all would please pray and pray hard. God in heaven, We come to you now in Jesus' precious and holy name to ask for our friend Tommy. I feel really in my heart that he's going to make it through this. And we all pray for this miracle. That's all we're waiting on is the miracle, God. We all need this. We pray that you take care of Tommy. Amen.
One week after the shooting, Tommy's older brother is at his bedside when the end comes.
Both of his lungs, they finally collapsed. And he couldn't keep his body temperature on his own head. All of that was on a machine. And he was getting pneumonia. And he just finally gave up. But he fought hard. He tried.
There were 650 people at his funeral, and I know he was special, but I didn't know he was that special to so many people. But he had touched each of their lives in some way.
3 teenagers were arrested in connection with the shooting. The suspects were found guilty and sentenced to prison.
A lot of people think it can't happen in their city, but almost every major city across the country is experiencing some gang problems. It's something that crosses all the barrier lines, and it is a community problem, and it's something that's going to take the entire community to solve.
5 months later, Tommy's family struggles to cope with their loss.
It's left an empty space. All of our lives have changed.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-627-3700.
Oh, when they could lose theirs.
The death of 18-year-old Tommy Bias inspired the state of Oklahoma to pass a law that makes drive-by shootings a felony, whether or not anyone is actually injured.
Meow.
Today on Rescue 911, Home Alone in terror. A woman trapped in her own home. Her desperate call to 911. Be there when police officers race to the scene. Then, a one-day fishing trip turns into a 5-day nightmare. Join the search as rescue crews frantically try to locate an 80-year-old couple lost at sea on Rescue 911.
Okay, I'm gonna put that Rescue 911 video up tomorrow. Because I've already done 5 episodes today. For more full Rescue 911 videos, full gymnastics meets, sports streams, flipper episodes, hit the big red button and subscribe. And I want to give a shout out to my 5th subscriber who subscribed to me like 2 days ago. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to end this stream now. I got to go to my iPad. It's in the stand. Ugh. And I will click on Finish Event. Let's see.